Welcome to Born to Hustle. I am your host, Rohan Carrion. I am here with Michael Garcia. He is an IT consultant with Unbound IT. Michael, can you please tell me a little bit more about what made you decide to be an IT consultant to begin with?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So first of all, appreciate you having me on the show, Roham. We've gotten to know each other a little bit over the past couple months, and so this is good, man. Congratulations, by the way, just on getting all this started. So thank you for having me.
I appreciate you coming to begin with. I appreciate it a lot.
Sure. Absolutely. So yeah, so my journey is, man, I think it kicked off probably the entire story, right? So you want all the story?
Yeah,
or you
we got
want
time. Tell me everything. Like
So
when you were born and the first time you finally were able to walk. Just like literally the beginning, but like in the business perspective.
I got you. So I guess if we're starting from the very beginning, first of all, I'm born and raised from here, from San Antonio.
Right.
So after high school, I ended up going to UT in Austin. And so that was a cool experience. It was, kind of everything that I thought it'd be. But afterwards, I had a decision to make. So I had originally, my degree is in history. Right, and the original plan was to become an attorney. I still remember my first day of talking to, like, what do they call it, the advisors, right, to kind of just guide you through your college experience, whatever. He was like, well, if you want to go to law school, pick a major where you're going to read a lot. So I was definitely in the history realm, right? So after that, by the time I finished college, though, I knew I didn't want to be an attorney. So
you initiated to become an attorney.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. Let me ask you a question. I know it's a little
Sure.
bit off topic, but history and then an attorney.
Yeah. So again, the idea was that you're going to be reading a lot in law school, right? Going over cases and laws and all this other stuff that's just really logical, and you have to really process it. So typically they'll recommend, like, become a political major, political science major, poli-sci, history, government, economics, something in like the liberal arts school is what they typically want you to major in. So yeah, I picked history. I was always a history nerd as a kid. And so after college, I had to figure out, well, how am I going to use this degree? So there's not really much you can do with a history degree outside of, like, maybe becoming a teacher, working for the government, or in my case, jumping into sales. And so that's exactly what I did. I jumped into sales. I had a friend that was working at a company called SHI at the time, and he told me, he was like, hey, man, you might be a good fit for this. I think you'd do well, or you would at least enjoy it. And so SHI was a reseller of everything IT. So, I mean, you think about it, whatever pretty much you can think about, they would resell it. So I really learned about all the different tech companies that were out there, right? Cisco, Microsoft. At the time, AWS was maybe just getting started, so didn't do a lot of that. But I learned about all the different companies that are out there. So fast forward to now, right? After a couple different tech companies that I work for in Austin, I finally decided a few months back to jump into the fray and become a small business owner. And here I am.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So how long have you been in the tech industry?
I've been in the tech industry for about 12 years. Yeah, probably more so like 12 and a half now. So, I've worked for companies like SHI, like I mentioned. I worked for Oracle for a little while, SolarWinds, a couple other well-known companies were like Rackspace, NTT. So, I've had numerous experiences between working with small businesses, medium-sized, enterprise level size companies. And that really, I think, set the foundation for me to do what I'm doing now, right? Because it allows me to pivot and kind of target who I want.
Okay, that's very fair to say.
Yeah.
And then when you work at Oracle, right?
Oracle.
Yeah, what did you do there for a while?
So at Oracle, I was on it was a global Java team, right? And so essentially we were going after companies that were out of compliance in using Java for IoT devices. So think about some little device that's maybe a smart device, right? Chances are it's got Java running on it. So Java allows you to use those licenses up to a certain point, up to a certain number, and then after a certain dollar amount, if I'm not mistaken. Once you get past that and you're making money off of it, they want a royalty fee. So yeah,
Oh, so it's not free and
it's not free forever.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that was essentially my job. I was a pretty much like a BDR, business development rep there. So it was my job to go and find those companies and then get them in line with being compliant, as well as kind of setting them up for some future deals that they might want to do with Oracle.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
And all of that combined, I mean, if that's the case, you've been doing it for 10 years, you've been working with different companies.
Sure.
What is it that ignited the hustle for you to be an IT consultant?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think there were several factors that went into it. At the time, so all my career, there's always been kind of and I think a lot of people in tech can attest to this. It's a very fast-paced industry, very fast-paced environment. So with that said, there's always kind of a shiny object, right? There's always kind of that temptation, I guess you can say, of wanting to jump to something else. So, and again, if anyone listening is in the industry, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, your LinkedIn gets filled with job offer requests, almost every day. In some cases, some people have, recruiters chasing them down to make them a part of their company, right? So that's a good thing, though. Sometimes people look at that and they see it as a negative light, but I learned so much from so many different people at all the different companies I was at and the roles that I was in. And so getting all that experience and all that under my belt, I got to a point in my life where I said, well, I have a skill set. I know how to communicate. I know how to position something that someone might be interested in, but I don't feel like I'm getting enough out of what I'm doing on a day-to-day with some of these other companies. So that was a big factor. Was I just really wanted to connect with people on a more personal basis. And you really get that opportunity to do that when you're working in a small to medium-sized business, in my opinion. Some people might disagree with me. That's fine. But in my opinion, you really do get to know people on a personal level when you're in the small business field. So, I had actually, back at NTT, I was actually laid off at the end of October, I believe is what it was. And so I found another job within a few months, and it was kind of, the expectation was for me to come in and be a very big piece of the sales engine within that company. At least that's how I had understood it. So, long story short, things we're not seeing eye to eye, the owner and myself. And so we just had different styles. We had different ways of going about things. So I'm very big on partnerships. I think that no one wins alone. You need people. And if you have a particular skill set and they have a particular skill set, then this is a perfect opportunity for all of us to work together outside of the FANG or, the big tech companies that are out there, right? Like, if you've been doing something for so long that you know it well enough, take that and apply that to other relationships that you have. And so that's really what I'm doing right now. So just being able to branch out on my own was a big thing. I just figured, you know what? It's either now or never, right? You're either going to do it now or you're not going to do it at all.
There has to be something that actually, and that thought process has been going for X amount of months, years. Or eventually you just got sick of it and you're like, you know what? Like, I'm ready to have my own practice. Like, it should have like long overdue per se. Like,
no, you nailed it. I had felt a certain way for maybe the past, I would say 5 or 6 years. Just being a part of organizations and then seeing the mistakes that leadership would make. In my head, it was like, why would you do that? From a business owner perspective, why would you make that call and cause so much headache and heartache for the rest of your workforce. So, and I'm not gonna point fingers or point out anyone in particular, but it was something that I had noticed not only in my own roles, but also in other like companies from, either friends or things that I'd read about that particular company and decisions they made. It just, so yeah, it had been kind of festering inside of me. And so it got to a point where it was like I said, it's either going to be now or never, right? Another big driving factor was me wanting to do something locally for my community. Like I said, I'm born and raised from San Antonio, and I don't, the technology scene here, the tech scene, I feel like there's a lot of room for improvement. There's a lot of room for growth. And so when I lived in Austin, I mean, you could throw a rock and hit someone that works at some IT company, right? So it just seems much more prevalent in Austin. And because of that, Austin has benefited a lot from, businesses that want to move there and things that end up attracting more people because of that type of culture and environment. So I just started to think to myself, like, why not do that here? Why not try and contribute to the tech scene, the tech community here in San Antonio?
That is I completely agree with you because every time I go to Austin, I see a ton of activity going
Yeah.
down there, like up there. Like there's
Right.
a ton.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever been to the Omni Hotel by any chance? It's
Yeah.
a big building. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I
100%.
went there once and every single floor
Yeah.
there was an event or something going on. And it
hmm
was insane. And most of it was actually tech related startups.
Yeah. A lot of tech startups are coming out of Austin. But again, like since COVID hit, working from home has kind of changed the dynamic, right? You see a lot of, at least I do, I see a lot of CEOs, a lot of major companies wanting to push people back into the office. In my mind, that makes zero sense whatsoever. You're only going to make people upset, especially if they've made dramatic moves, like they move to a whole nother state where they have, now they've got an actual scenery of green, right? Maybe they're living like on an acre now instead of living in a cramped apartment somewhere in LA or Silicon Valley, right? But now you're seeing these tech CEOs and a lot of tech companies trying to force people to come back into the office. And I think that's a very big mistake. You're sacrificing your employees' happiness, and that's going to sacrifice their ability to deliver on whatever it is that you're trying to get accomplished. So in my head, and as a business owner, that makes zero sense to me, right? Why would you force that upon? Not to mention, a lot of these companies also talk about being, following ESG and being more green. Well, isn't it more green to let your employees work out of their homes instead of driving back and forth, right, to a building? Aren't you going to save money by getting rid of all those leases, all those buildings that you have, right? So, and I'm sure there's plenty of other things that go into that, but
You can go back and forth,
right,
like bringing them back into the office. There can be
right,
more accountability because sometimes when you work from home, you don't know if they're actually working. There's some metrics and systems in place, but you never know. And
yeah,
then, but the thing is, if if the guy is meeting his metrics and
right,
he's clocking in and doing what he's supposed
right,
to be doing, then what's the problem?
exactly,
And realistically, I can see where you're coming from because it's
right,
not just in the tech industry; it's just corporations in general. They want them back into the office,
right.
and I get it. But at the same time, like that's not necessary.
It's just you got to change with the times, right? Like that whole thing changed the game forever, right? And now that we've already proven that employees can be successful in that type of environment, I think companies need to change their mindset and figure out how to get that same camaraderie that they used to in the office some other way, right? Set up events where you have, in each city where you have a cluster of people, set up events, make everyone come out, right? Make everyone kind of still interact with one another or encourage one another to do that. But I think it's just changed and companies need to change along with the times.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And what about us as business owners? Would you say? I feel like we're the only ones who are still keeping up with the times, meaning like we still stick with Zoom. Like that's now a practical.
It's super practical.
Like it's back in the day, it was just like come to my meeting
Right.
or in-house consultation,
Right.
and that was difficult. But now, Zoom call is available. You can have clients from different states, and I'm pretty
Right.
sure back in the day that was a thing too. But now, um, new startups and even business owners like ourselves can have the same leisure.
Right.
Like it's the same thing.
And I mean, and you think about it, right? For a business owner, that's awesome, right? Because think about starting a business maybe 50 years ago, right? 60 years ago, when there was no internet, there was no Zoom, there were no cell phones, right? There wasn't any of that.
Mm.
It was a lot of, first of all, you had to stick to your own city, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to really get to know people, and you had to, and that's not to say that that needs to be replaced or it should be replaced. I'm saying that was your only avenue, right? Because we can still do that. I still think that it's always a better approach to meet someone, see the whites of their eyes, shake their hand, right? Have a meal with them, right? Just try and get to know them on a more personal level. But now we also have all the other stuff, right? We have all the tech stuff, right? So let's say that, Mr. Customer is in, Dallas somewhere, and his kid's about to, play their first soccer game, right? Well, I'm sure he'd rather want to see his kid's soccer game, but still realizes it's important to have a conversation with me. So now instead of sacrificing one or the other, he can hop on his laptop an hour before the game or while he's at the game,
Mm-hmm.
right? And have a conversation with me to where we still talk business, talk shop, get done whatever we have to. And he's still present watching his kid, play his first soccer game.
Yeah, maybe before the game starts, but that's a commute that you don't even have to take.
Exactly.
So that's the big bargain right
Right,
there.
right.
Because the game has not started, but you're still in the bench,
Right.
maybe on the
You're there.
computer, and the game is not started yet, but you're just there, and instead of just doing the commute, and then maybe
Right.
you have to change, and like, I'm sorry, my son, and no, like it's like, all right, man, I'll talk to you later. 5 minutes later,
Right, you're there.
Woo!
You're there. You're not worrying about hopping on a plane back all the way, to Dallas from wherever you're going. So it's technology, I always say, is a double-edged sword, right? And we see that a lot with everything that's going on in the world today, right? You can use it to your advantage and use it as an extension of yourself, or you can let it use you, right? And you
Mhm.
can be constantly scrolling on your phone, or you can be just constantly distracted. But it comes down to, personal choice and responsibility, really.
It really does.
Yeah.
I completely. And one more thing before we continue forward to the next topic,
Sure.
is since we talked about this, what would be a key insight about the industry? And when I refer to this question, I refer more to, like, some people may want to be an IT consultant like yourself.
Sure.
Others may just want to be somewhere else in the tech industry.
Sure.
You can Google it. You can go to YouTube. But
Yeah.
what would be something that you will only find out by experience alone? And that key insight, what would you like to share?
Yeah, that's a really good question, right? First of all, time is going to be a big one, right? The amount of years that I've been in the industry, you see a lot of stuff, you experience a lot of stuff, and so those firsthand experiences, sometimes the only way you can get them is by the amount of time that you're in the seat. I'll never forget, I had a COO that I used to work for. This was at a small tech manufacturing company. And I look back on it now and I realized all the valuable lessons that I learned from them. And that was one of the things that I would ask him. I was like, well, how do you know all this stuff, right? Like, because the guy always seemed to have an answer. And, he would just sit there and be like, it's experience.
That's
It's
it, bro.
experience. I've been in this chair probably as long as you've been alive. And so that's the thing, right? Is like, you're not. So I guess I would say, don't hesitate to start, right? Sometimes a lot of people, they think, oh, I have to have this grand elaborate plan, right? But the plan isn't always going to go according to how you planned it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think one of the big tips or pieces of advice that I could give is just jump in and start somewhere, right? Whether that's picking up a certification, whether that's Googling stuff, whether that's making contact with someone like myself or someone else in the industry, just start reaching out, start doing some type of action.
Oh, okay, that's very fair to say. Because
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, you can only find out. That's all I
Until
can
you do
say.
it.
Until you do it,
Right.
you just gotta start doing it. And then,
Right.
what's another key insight about the industry that you could say as an industry, not through you came not as a tech consultant, but what is something about the tech industry that generalized speaking nobody knows about?
I think a lot of people sometimes think they have to have degrees to be in the industry or to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
In my and again, there's probably going to be people out there that completely disagree,
Mm-hmm.
right? But in my opinion, is you don't have to have a college degree to jump into this, right? Again, there's certifications. AWS has plenty of certifications. You can become a certified architect through them and get out and start making very good money into the six figures, right? Because they're so needed. Same thing with GCP. Same thing with AWS. Same thing with cybersecurity. There's such a need for cybersecurity right now that you do not need a degree, a college degree. You can get certifications as well. There's also like training companies
Mm-hmm.
where they'll train you on certain things that you can do, and that is enough. That's enough to secure you a very good, uh, high-paying job in the industry, to where you won't be, you know, having to worry about where's the next check coming from or anything like that.
Okay. So based on what you're telling me thus far, the tech industry, there's plenty for job opportunities because you
Plenty.
get recruiters chasing after
Yep.
you, which I relate to that in the finance industry. So
Mhm.
they just continuously like, hey man, and the longer you have being in the specific position, I've noticed that the request gets even bigger from
Yep.
there.
Yep.
So it becomes even more plus, right? And then
Right.
beyond that, you're telling me that there's no need for a bachelor's degree or a associate's degree. Now, if that is the instance, then what would benefit someone to get a bachelor's degree? Let's just say I decide to be in the industry, I get
Yeah.
my certifications. What would you think a bachelor's degree can even do for me?
I mean, you could probably get something like a computer science degree,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's like with any other type of degree, right? Typically, companies are going to favor they put weight into people who have experience, but they not only put weight into people that have experience, but they also will pay more if you have the paper, right? In some instances, that's might be a little bit silly, right? Because you might get a guy that's, probably can rip apart the entire network of a Fortune 100 company and has never set foot on a university. But that's in my experience, that's kind of how I've seen it, right? So
That's life. When
that's
it's
that's life, right?
accredited, a piece of paper.
Exactly.
It's just a piece of paper proving that you know, even though the individual who's been doing the experience already knows
Yeah.
it, but because the paperwork alone already builds that trust, and they're going to assume that you
Yeah.
should,
Right.
like that's quotation marks
Right.
right here, that you should know better. In some instances, that's the case. In several
Sure.
instances, that's not the case at all.
Exactly. And I mean, at the end of the day, right? You get a degree. At the very least, what it's telling people is you can commit to something for 4 years or 5 years or however long it took you to get that degree and finish out the plan, right? So it does show that you can put in the effort. It shows that you have dedication. It shows that you can set a goal and finish it, right? It shows that you can be measured, right? So if anything, those are the things that I would see add to your experience alone, right? It just solidifies that on paper, showing that you can do all those things.
Commitment, I would say.
Right.
That I think that's powerful
Yeah.
as an employer, because I can see myself going for someone with a degree than no degree. Because if you study it, and here you are at my door,
Right.
chances are you're gonna stay.
Sure.
Compared to someone who has no degree, no certification, and he probably still trying to find out what is real hustle.
Right. Right.
So I can totally agree to that point of view.
Right.
And then now, you've been doing it for X amount of years. What is a few things that you would say that you wish that you would have known, and like you can like if you can go back in time,
Yeah.
like a mirror,
Yeah.
see yourself and say, hey bro, like X, Y, and Z, what would it be?
Yeah. I think I would, I think the steps that I've taken right now to get to where I'm at have been good. But if I could go back and give myself some advice to maybe shortcut to where I'm at now, I would say maybe find your niche faster, right? Like especially in sales, I was always taught you got to have your singles, your doubles, your triples, and your home runs,
Mm-hmm.
right? Focus on what's going to get you that cash flow to set you up to have the triples and the home runs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So focus on that little niche that's going to get you that cash flow and make sure that you're in a really good spot so that you can dedicate time to bigger deals and bigger opportunities. That's what I would say. Find something that's going to be really good on the cash flow return and not too time consuming.
Not too time consuming.
Yeah.
Okay. So have you been in an instance where you spend too much time and maybe the effort wasn't worth it?
Yeah, I mean, of course, what I'm offering in my business, I feel like it is worth it because if not, I wouldn't be offering it. But it's going to there's things that have a much longer sales cycle, right? They're just going to take longer before they're completely finished, right? So if I come across a migration opportunity that's going to take 3 months, right? That's going to be maybe $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, but I've got a sales cycle of probably 3 to 5 months, right? Depending on how smooth everything goes. In a perfect world, it would be the minimum of 3 months. But we don't live in a perfect world, and things can always come up.
There's
right?
always something going on. Yes.
Exactly. As opposed to like maybe someone who needs a website, right? Straightforward. It's going to be a $2,000 website, right? They pay that up front. I get it done in 3 to 4 weeks, and we're all off to the races. So it's just knowing your business and knowing what's going to bring in cash flow, what's going to be your really big deals, right? And then figuring out how to balance both of those.
Okay, that's very fair to
Yeah.
say. Yeah, because man, that's interesting. Then, so that sounds very welcoming. That's what it sounds like to me. Like, just go ahead and do it, and chances are you're gonna succeed as long as you stick with it.
I mean, and that's the biggest thing. I would also say, just make sure you're financially in a good spot as well, right? You don't want to be struggling and trying to figure out how you're going to keep the lights on. But for sometimes you don't have that luxury. Sometimes you don't. You're like, I need to get money coming in as quickly as possible. That's just being real, right?
Yeah, no, 1,000%. And
So-
then you have a very long sales cycle.
Right.
Definitely far more patient than I ever could.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's-
So you just gotta really figure out again, like if you're working on a deal that's gonna take 4 to 6 months, you need to be having plenty of deals coming in that are those 1 month turnarounds, right? So, I definitely say owning my own business has definitely kind of lifted the veil for me. I don't think I could go back to working for someone.
No, I totally understand. Because you have full control of everything. And
Exactly.
you're going to start telling your managers, like, have a good day. Don't tell me what to do.
But it's like, and it's not that I don't want to come off as like, oh, I know everything, because I don't. And that's the thing, right? Like, you got to be able to lean on people because you don't know everything. You have to do everything. That's the big difference, right? You don't know anything, but you have to do everything.
Yeah.
So, as myself as an example, in my entire career, I've always been in sales, and I love sales, right? I love talking to people. I love learning about what they're working on. I love solving problems. I love helping people. Now that I have my own business, I can't just do sales, right?
No.
You get it?
Yeah,
So, like,
there's a far bigger picture now.
you got to worry about finance. You got to worry about marketing. You got to worry about operations. You got to do project management. You got to do everything.
You're wearing all the hats at
You're
the
wearing
same time.
all the hats, my friend. All the hats. So understand that as well. If you want to start your own business, understand it's going to be a grind. It's going to be the biggest grind you've ever done in your life, right? So think of the most challenging role you've ever been in whatever job you've had,
Mm-hmm.
and then multiply that times 10.
Oh, yeah. You know what really is interesting, though?
What's that?
That's why I met that a lot of business. You know what's interesting? Like, it is
What?
a lot of work. You are wearing all the hats.
Yeah.
But because it's benefiting you directly and you're building your own path, and because you're actually
Yeah.
like this is
For
your
you.
business. This is for
This is your
you,
baby.
and like
Right.
like you agree with me, right? It makes it
100%.
makes you feel like it's your baby.
That's right.
Like all my businesses, I have like a like, oh yeah, she's great, bro.
Yeah,
She's,
she's
she
doing
knows how to
well.
she knows how to treat me right.
Yep.
Every now and then, right? Like in every relationship, they start getting a little bit abusive, but as long as they say I love you back, I'm like, okay, cool.
You
I
can
forg-
stomach it, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
yeah, it's like totally. I relate that to the core, and it's like, yeah, it is a lot of work. It
Yeah.
is 10 times more challenging, but for some reason,
It's
like
it's like, man, but
it just hits different.
every business owner that I've had the pleasure of speaking to a lot of business owners within the past few months. Every business owner has told me a story where they're on the brink of like a mental breakdown. They're on the brink of getting divorced. They're on the brink of like losing their family, right? Like losing their house,
Mm-hmm.
losing everything, right? But they keep at it. A lot of people end up saying, "Well, I can't go on any further,
Yeah.
right? So I got to go find a job now."
Yeah.
But there's the ones that stick it through and the ones that get through it completely. They end up being the ones that are massively successful.
Oh yeah, I hope I get to relate to them because I'm getting punched in the face
Just
every now and then.
keep
And
taking it,
I know
brother. Keep taking it.
learned. Trust me, I learned to cry as I walk at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah.
So
You just wipe those tears and keep going.
yeah, not even. I'm just crying as I walk.
I don't even have time to wipe
Yeah,
it.
it's like, hey man, don't worry, have positive attitude.
Yeah.
It's like I'll do the next hour. Give me a minute.
Yeah.
I'll put it
yeah.
in my schedule. Have a positive attitude.
Dude, put all the positives. I mean,
I mean, some people just stick with the moment. They go through the challenge and they just stop, and then they
Right.
just feel the full burn. And
Yeah.
then I get it, but like
Yeah.
you gotta keep on pushing.
you really do.
Like-
And but that's good for you also. Like humans are built to take stress. Humans are built to overcome difficult situations, right? It's just naturally embedded in all of us. I'm not saying it's only for certain people. All of us are built that way. And so when you really start to push yourself and you get outside of that little comfort zone, right?
Mhm.
I'm sure that in somewhere along my career, I will always remember someone had wrote something on like a whiteboard. We always used to have like whiteboards to work stuff out. Someone made a little box, right, and they said, "This is your comfort zone," right, and then they have a little dot outside the box, and it says, "This is where the magic happens." And so it's true.
It's true.
It's not until you get outside of your comfort zone where you're having those sleepless nights, where you're, worried sick about where the next, check is going to come from and how you're going to pay your mortgage or, your kid's school tuition or whatever, right? But you just got to grind it out.
Oh, 1000%. I remember a poll by the SBA, the Small Business Administration,
Oh, yeah.
and they said, how many times or like would you say that you have to get out of your comfort zone in order to elevate your business? And 83% said yes.
Absolutely.
And I felt that to the core. And I remember when I was 19, I used to go to Bunker Labs. It's like a co-working space, I believe. I
Okay.
don't remember exactly what it was, but
Yeah.
I used to go to the panels. It's in Austin, and there's veterans literally speaking to former military or when I was in the military, telling me, like how be a business owner, use what you have learned, your leadership, basically everything. Like you're ready, just
Yeah.
do it, kind of
Yeah.
deal. And then I completely forgot what I was going with this. So, but
Well-
but you gotta keep in mind when I went to. Oh, I remember this one lady said, most business owners have 2 to 3 businesses failed before
Yeah.
they meet their massive successful
Right.
one. And I said, man, I really don't want to relate to that. I hope my
Yeah.
first one becomes massively successful.
Absolutely.
That was 19-year-old me when I had 3 businesses, and now it's 20-year-old me with 2 businesses already failed, or one of them I sold because I lost my passion with real estate.
Yeah.
'Cause I love real estate. It just wasn't for me.
Sure.
Not for like the next 20 years. And I went through my failures, especially in COVID-19 and so on. So I'm
Yeah.
looking back into it, and I'm like, man, why do I relate to it? Like I'm just another part. Like
Well-
I wish it wasn't like 19-year-old me. I was like, man, I don't want to relate to that. I want
But
to.
you
I'm
know what?
excited, and here I am, 24
Yeah.
years old, and I'm like, damn, I relate.
But look, man, I'll tell you this: when you get older, right? When you can't walk the same way, you can't run the same way, right? When you're getting close to the end, you're gonna look back on your life and you're gonna be like, "I'm glad that I tried it. I'm glad that I did it."
Oh.
Instead of being like, "I wish I would have tried it. Why didn't I try it?" Right?
Yeah.
So, and that's one thing I never want to go to my deathbed thinking about is that I never tried something out of fear, or I never tried something because I was like, man, well, what if it doesn't work out? Well, what if it does? What if it does? And it changes your life completely,
It really does.
you
And it
know?
gives you a lot of purpose too, because you
It
wake up in the
does.
morning and people say like, "Man, what is your why?"
Right.
And sometimes the why like right now, some individuals that I've met, they have a why, but they don't have a real why.
Right.
It's just that that's my baby, and I just get up and I
Right.
just work, and that's my like. If that why is not just a why for you to keep pushing, it now becomes your purpose,
Right.
and that's just your life moving forward.
That's so important, man. That's that. So there was, I forgot who I heard this from another person who was also a leader in a company that I worked at, but he told me, he was like, the problem with society today, one of the many, is that people don't have a purpose, right? It's a crisis of purpose. People don't know what they're supposed to be doing. Before, you would work for your family, right? Well, now less and less people are having kids. Before, it was like you had your own business, right? Well, now it's harder and harder to start your own business. And so it ends up becoming that crisis of purpose where you nailed it on your head. If you don't have something that's going to literally pull you out of bed, right? And that's why for a lot of people, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, or if it's even happened to you, when you have kids, I've noticed a lot of people, like, they were kind of just, floating through life,
Mm-hmm.
but then they had kids and it was like a light switch just went off, right? And they started going on a rampage, just doing stuff.
Yeah. When my daughter was born, I couldn't. I remember I got recently scammed.
Oh, man.
Yeah, because I remember I was living in Tennessee,
Mm-hmm.
and then my wife at the time, we're no longer married, but she got pregnant with my daughter, and I remember
Mm-hmm.
my family. Everybody kept telling me the same thing. Hey, dude, you should come back to San Antonio. You should move back
Yeah.
to Texas. Your family's here.
Yeah.
You're gonna need this help.
Right.
And I was just by myself in Tennessee, in
Yeah.
Cordova, next to nearby Memphis. And I was like, here, like, well, I don't know. And I kept with the I don't know, but in my head, it's like really sticking with me.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's telling me to move back to move back to Texas.
Right.
And then, unfortunately, because of COVID-19, the business did not work out because it was not essential. It was not
Yeah.
important, and I lost my passion of it
Man.
because, dude, I was working so hard for what?
Yeah.
It wasn't. It came to the point that I just said, you know what? I need to change my life. I need to figure something out.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Texas, and before I knew it, I started the contracting business.
Right.
And the Sayer Industries.
Right.
But when I started doing something like that, before that, on the day that she was born, like hours before she was born, I remember somebody tried to hire me, and they said I'm gonna work from home. There's something brand new, and then they said that you're gonna have to get the equipment in X, Y, and Z. Long story short, I was negative 1,600.
Man.
Like, they scammed me good, and not just to get to the point. And then my daughter was born, and here I am looking at her, and I'm just like, whoa! Like, now
Right.
I have to make my dreams.
Yeah.
Like, I was thinking about, like, I need to make my dreams come true. Like, I need
Right.
to pursue, because I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I was thinking about getting a job. But when she was there, I was like, I need to pursue my dreams.
Yeah.
I need to figure
It's
out.
now it's real.
I need
right?
to make it happen. Like,
Yeah. You have no
I
choice
wanted to
now.
make my dreams a reality, but I'm looking at her. I'm like, I really gotta make my dreams. Like, I really
Yeah.
have to now. And
Right.
I'm looking at her, but then I'm just here like,
Yeah.
oh, now I need. Luckily, because of the baby shower, I got diapers and this and that.
Sure. Sure.
But I'm looking at it, and I'm just like, I'm negative $1,600
Yeah.
because I just recently got scammed
Yeah.
trying to get a job to supply
Yeah.
for my family.
But now you've got your purpose,
And
right?
yeah, and it was
And
it was a
so-
strong purpose.
Yeah.
I didn't have time to complain because I'm pretty sure if I wrote I wasn't born, my daughter, like, I'd probably be complaining how I got scammed. But when she was born, I was like, no, I don't got time for this. Like, I gotta make it. I gotta figure it out. Like,
Right.
like this lady's hungry. Like,
Right, exactly.
like, I gotta
She's
figure it
gotta
out.
eat one way or another.
Yeah, exactly. So therefore, I
Yeah.
see exactly what you mean. And then Noah was born, and that's my son. And I'm just like, once again, damn, I really, 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 really,
Yep.
really gotta make my dreams a reality because I'm
Yep.
slowly getting there. But my journey's, I'm still meeting my milestones of my
Right.
journey. My journey is not even ended yet.
But that's the thing, man. Is the journey takes a little while.
It does.
That's one thing that I've definitely learned is patience. You have to be patient. You have to be consistent, but you have to be patient, right?
Yeah.
One thing you talked about a few weeks ago, right? You mentioned it to me, and you mentioned it to some of the other people at the networking event. Sales breath, right?
Commission breath.
Commission breath, right? When you come off to people, like if you're desperate, they're gonna get that, right? They're gonna pick up on that, and it's gonna scare them away. So you just want to have a plan, but don't linger on it, right? Get it into motion. I sometimes describe it as like building an airplane while it's flying.
Oh
Right?
yeah,
That's how it is.
That sounds very difficult at the
It
same time.
is.
And
Yeah.
realistically, the best way to remove commission breath is focus on the presentation. Don't worry about the sale,
Sure. Right.
because commission breath is like, I need this sale.
And that's why it takes time, and you got to have patience, right? Because people need to get to know you. No one's ever going to buy from you. No one's ever going to do business from you if they don't like you, right? If they don't think that you're a genuine person, and you want to be a genuine person. I'm not saying put on a facade, all right? I'm saying be a genuine person.
Yeah.
And genuinely want to help people out, genuinely want to hear their problems, hear what they're working on, right? And figure out where you can work with them. And sometimes you're not going to be able to. But I think that building that relationship and building that connection can help with other connections that maybe people they can introduce you to, right? There's other things that can come from knowing that person or building that connection. So,
No, that's fair to say. That's fair to say. And in reality, it also, I know I talk about commission breath in my networking events every now and then, because I really preach it at this point.
Sure.
But that's because I have to learn that lesson.
right.
I had the same issue.
Man, I think a lot of us have.
Yeah, like I had the same issue.
At some point.
And it comes to the point, I'm like, all right, guys, like I need to make my sales.
Right.
I need to make my metrics. Sometimes it's because of competition. Sometimes because I put myself a goal and I didn't want to go to my manager.
Yep.
And they're going to ask you, like, why didn't you meet your goals? And I freaking hate that conversation. Like, I hate it. That's another reason why I like being a business owner. Like, if I didn't get the sale, you know why I didn't get the sale? It just didn't happen. Period. That's it. Don't give me.
I know why.
Yeah.
I know why.
Don't give me like,
explain to
if you
anyone.
said,
Right.
don't tell me if you would have said this and this and that, you would have gotten, like, shut up, bro.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
no, were you in the conversation?
100%.
You wouldn't gotten the sale. Mind your business.
100%.
It came to the point I just told them they were just not the customer.
And that's what people don't understand, right? Like, you're not going to sell. I mean, it's like if someone walked up to me or they walked up to you, right? And I'm sure this happened to you before, where they're trying to sell you like a phone, like AT&T or internet, right? DirecTV, something like that, at like a Walmart or a Sam's or something, right? It's like, well, dude, I don't even watch TV. I don't watch TV, so I would literally just be wasting my money on something like that. So they're never going to sell you. Never. I'm never going to buy it from you, right? And so that's the thing, is that you don't waste your time on those people, because they're not interested. You talk to the people who are like, oh yeah, you know what? I've got AT&T right now, or whatever carrier, and I don't like them, right? And I don't like them. What do you have? Oh, well, now you've got their attention. Now you can give your pitch. Now you can, if either the ideal customer, right, where they're like, that sounds perfect, sign me up right now. Or they're the customer that's on the fence, which is, I think, probably most people, right? Where they're like, well, I don't know, like, and then that's, you go into your
another
pitch
thing they're
again.
not considering is that the sale changes their lifestyle.
Sure.
Because I remember this.
It really does.
I remember a friend of mine, I'm not going to say any names, but he basically tried to convince somebody who had like multiple streaming channels. Like he had Netflix, Hulu, Apple, and stuff like that. He says, why are you having all of this when you can just have one entertainment package?
Right.
And he was cable. He was DirecTV, if I remember correctly. And he did manage to get the sale, by the way. He did manage to get the sale. But the thing is, I saw a lot of hesitation on that guy. And I remember when I asked him, do you think he's gonna like keep the service? Well, there's a contract. And I'm like, so you didn't care really much about him? It's like, well, if you think about it, he's saving some money here. Here's like, okay, you're not really paying attention to the key part here. The key part, and then he saw as a little bit of defiance. I get it.
Sure, he wanted to sell.
Yeah, but I'm former military, so ask me how much I cared about what he thought about me being defiant. Like, really, like, ask me if I care. Like,
yeah.
So, anyways, but that aspect alone, I remember it's like, you do realize that he watches Netflix and stuff like that, did you ask about the family? Who's using that Netflix? And he
Right.
told you, he was like, oh, I barely use it, but my brother does. So that
Um,
means that he's canceling Netflix. So what about the brother? You know, yeah,
cause problems
I
between
know,
the
yeah, and I know something in a way. It's like, what does it really matter? Well, that's a
Right.
lifestyle if you think about it.
Sure.
Because
Sure.
what about the kids? What about this? What about that?
Right. Right.
And I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, I used to have cable too,
Sure.
but the only thing I don't like about cable is that you're paying and you're still getting ads.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I pay with Netflix and I
No
don't get
ads.
any ads.
Right. Exactly.
So, and if they start giving ads, I'm gonna slap somebody. I don't know who. I got a big phone. I'll figure it out. I'll be like, yo. But like to
Yeah.
return back into the topic of the tech industry, right? And
Yeah.
in a way, um, would you say that tech industry is mostly sales related, or
Not at all.
because I know there's a lot of development. I have this friend who worked for Intel, and he developed a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
Like, what's more that you can say about the tech industry?
That's probably, to be honest, it's probably the majority of it. It's development, it's maintenance. Sales is a portion of every business, right? Whether you like it or not, you're gonna have to sell your product at one point, right? Unless it's just that amazing that everybody just comes to you without you doing anything at all. But for the most part, sales is going to be present in pretty much every industry. Sales and tech is a good position to be in because tech is so ingrained in our lives now,
Mhm.
right? So, and that's not going away. That's only going to become more and more and more a part of our daily routine, right? So, the tech industry though is consisted of, I mean, pretty much every type of role you can think of, right? There's engineering, there's R&D, there's HR, there's payroll, right? There's project management. There's a position almost for everyone and anyone that would be found in maybe like a manufacturing company, right?
Mhm.
Or found in even maybe like a retail company, right? There's going to be those layers, right? You've got your C levels, you've got VPs, you've got directors, managers, and then everybody who works there, right? The employees, right? So it's just it's a good space to be in. I encourage people who are maybe just coming out of like high school or college, right? If you're looking for, you know, a great industry to be a part of, tech is definitely it.
Mhm.
One thing I would add on top of that as well is that there's a lot of room for entrepreneurship, right? So if you want to start your own business, you can do a number of things with technology, right? And so that's the thing. That's one of the things that I want to also put out into the ether, right? Put out into the world is that I think we need more entrepreneurs. We need more small businesses. I don't like that there's a lot of these big companies that pretty much have monopolies on a lot of the technology that we use. And so I think there needs to be more companies out there that really take the plunge to compete with those companies. And, you know, there's probably companies that have done that with that mission kind of at the forefront. But, you know, those big companies will come in and say, hey, we'll buy your company for $200 million. And I understand that's going to be hard to turn down, right?
Especially when you need an exit, or especially if you're a startup owner,
Right.
and you went through venture capital. And venture
Yeah.
capital, you know how they get paid? Once you either go public or the
Once
moment
you
you exit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes getting an exit will be easier because
Right.
sometimes we as human beings, we like going to the next venture.
Absolutely.
And it can be either in the same industry, but just
Yeah.
a different type of, like a different direction,
Right.
or just a whole different industry in general.
Right. Exactly.
So we
Yeah.
like things to be different. And I feel like entrepreneurship, and that's what I love about it. Like being a business owner means that you don't get bored.
You don't. There's always a challenge.
You don't get bored of your job at all.
No.
And realistically, going at you, so basically becoming an IT consultant will take some time, right? Of course, but like
100%.
but getting into the tech industry, so you would just to clarify more or less.
Sure.
Would you say that becoming a consultant or an IT consultant primarily comes from the fact that you've been doing it for around 10 years? Like the experience alone is what allows you to be a consultant?
I think so. I genuinely think so. Because of my experience and what I've done in the past, that allows me to speak to a lot of different pieces of the puzzle, right? And it's not also for everyone, like I said, right? Because the route that I'm taking is a business owner owning my own small business, right? If you want to get into the tech industry, I think you can you can get into the tech industry. I wouldn't say fairly easily, but I think it would be an easier route than starting your own business, right? So it's just going to boil down to what you're looking for.
Honestly, yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Right.
So a few certifications and stuff like that. And
That helps a ton.
yeah, in which one? What would be the easiest way to get to the tech industry before I search? Like, what would you think? Like getting into AWS? Like, what would be one of the easiest routes that you can like?
Yeah. I mean, I think
Yeah,
so. It depends again on what you want to do.
yeah, of course,
Right.
because it's so broad.
It's
You
so
can
broad.
be an
Right.
engineer,
Right.
and stuff like that.
Right. Sales and marketing is a great place to start, right? If you just want to get in. Engineering, I highly recommend that you have at least some type of certifications. If you're an engineer, put together a portfolio, right? Something that you've done before, something you've designed, the languages that you've worked in, right? Stuff like that. But getting into the actual industry right now might be a little bit more challenging just because of all the layoffs that all these companies have been doing, unfortunately. And so for the newer people coming in, keep that in mind is that you're competing against literally hundreds of thousands of people who do have experience and they have the same education you have. And so that's where it's not good, right? That's where I say we should have more entrepreneurs, right? More IT consultants out there. But again, it's like those memes that talk about the job experience, right? It'll say you need 2 years of job experience, and you're like, but I just got out of college. I don't have any job experience.
Yeah, that and that really sucks. So it's
Yeah.
like, hey guys, I forgot this post, but apparently there was this guy who created a specific thing, and it says we're looking for 10 years of this specific thing, and he was like, man, it really sucks that I cannot qualify since I created it 6 years ago,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, that is so accurate.
That's hilarious.
Like the creators himself was like, man,
too
I
bad.
don't even qualify,
Oh,
and I was
man.
the founder of it.
Exactly. So, and to people that are out there right now struggling that have been laid off, my heart goes out to you. I know what that's like. It's not a good feeling. Hang in there. It's going to get better. Also, think about starting your own business. Just throwing it out there, right? It might be something that you really enjoy. It might be something that takes off. And now all of a sudden you're like, what job?
Yeah, no, legit.
Who am I going to work for again?
Yeah, once
Me?
your business is actually
yeah.
making you money, you don't go back.
You don't go back.
Yeah,
You
1000%. And realistically speaking, for those of you out there listening, two things are gonna happen, and I'm a big believer of this.
Yeah.
Either you're gonna have a successful business, you're gonna make some money, and successful is down to your own definition, right? It could be
Yeah.
if $8,000 is all you ever want to make, and that's all you need, and
Right.
then you're happy, then that's success in my opinion. If
Right.
$4,000 is realistically all you ever need, and you're happy with it, then that's successful as long as
Right.
it lasts for X amount of years,
Right.
and or you just learn some really good stuff,
Right. It's always a learning experience. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
like
You never walk away with nothing. I think that's the attitude that you should have if you're going to be a part of anything, really. Either starting a new job, working for someone, or even starting your own business. Look at it as a learning experience. So that way you're walking away always with something.
Honestly, I remember I read this book. It says like if you're thinking about it, you have to start now. Now, starting now doesn't mean register the LLC, start building the brand. You like start identifying the market. Start
Right.
telling people, hey man, for example, my sister, she's wanting to become a barber. Okay, start telling people
That you could hear.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like tell people, hey, I
Yeah.
want to become a barber. I'm thinking about it. Blah 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 blah. If I give you a free haircut, because she has experience, but now she wants to be formal,
Sure.
able to actually be an on-site 1099, maybe her own personal branding, and
Yeah.
type of barber. And I'm like, okay, well, you need to start talking to people, start telling people that
Right.
you like right now we're planning on an event on Geekdom where the members are gonna come in for free food. And obviously that's where I come in, and then my sister will be on the corner, and everybody is coming with the intention they're gonna get a free haircut.
Nice.
So she's gonna be taking pictures and getting that experience
Yep.
and stuff like that. And it's 100% free because legally she's not supposed to unless they want to tip her. Like,
Sure.
a donation doesn't hurt. However, like that alone is her testing the market.
Right.
If you don't like it, let's just say you did 20 haircuts and like, man, that really sucked. I really don't want to be doing this. I'm like, okay,
Right.
cool. Then don't
Put more into
now
it.
you know you're not gonna register an LLC. Now you know you're
Exactly.
not gonna get it like the whole 9 yards of
Exactly.
registration before you actually get the legality and the finances separate
Yep.
between your business banking and so on and so on.
Yep.
So something I like to say is always test the market. Start talking to people. Find out your warm market. Find out
Sure.
what is the feedback that you're getting. Find out if people even trust you to even be in your services.
Right.
Like my sister's even more hyped than ever because she knows that people will actually say yes on going to their house, giving you a haircut.
Yeah.
So that feedback alone gives you confidence. Like, okay, I am becoming a professional. It's
Right.
becoming official. I'm registering, and you know what? With clientele
Right.
already, with some type of momentum. It doesn't mean that you're just gonna be successful there forward. It just means that you're not coming in blind. You're not just
Right.
doing it. You could potentially say that I did my due diligence. You know,
Absolutely.
and I don't know if you
Absolutely.
tested your one market. You know, like when you were talking about it and planning about it, because testing the market could be as long as 3 years, or as long
Sure.
as it could be. You're still
Yeah.
working. That doesn't mean that you're not really trying to identify it.
Yeah. And I mean, I would also say like don't try and reinvent the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So my business, I know works because other businesses are doing it. I'm not really doing the model itself is not any different. Now, my experience that I give you, that's the difference, right? When you work with me, that's going to be the difference between working with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, someone who's going to get to know you personally has your interest at heart, right? Your best interest at heart. That's the big key differentiator, right? But you know, what I'm doing right now, there's other people that do it, right? So, you know, web development, mobile app development, migrations into the cloud, cost optimization, right? All this is done. Cybersecurity. I mean, there's so many cybersecurity companies out there, right? But that's the thing also, right? Like there's such a big need. There's enough for everyone to go around, right? Everybody needs cybersecurity, right? If you have a business, you need a website. I don't care what anyone tells you. You need a website, not a social media account. At least not as your primary way that people get in contact with you. You need a
Okay, yeah, that's
website.
fair.
Yeah, you need a website. You can use social media to funnel people to your website, but every business should have their own website. So these are things that everyone needs, right? And so that's what I would tell people is when you're putting together your business plan, make sure it's something that's going to be relevant, something that you know is going to work, unless it's just something that's so different and it's so revolutionary, right? Well, then that's going to take more faith. But even then, if you believe in it enough and you know after you've done a warm check, right, with your immediate circle, your outside circle, right, you've gotten maybe people to try your product or whatever, then you have an idea like, wow, you know, out of the 200 people that I've shown this to, 199 have liked it, right? Then you know you're on a good path. But if not, don't try and reinvent the wheel. An IT consultant, that's primarily what I'm doing. I'm consulting, right? So you're leveraging my experience, my knowledge to be able to make educated, well-informed decisions on your company using technology.
That's very fair to say. Now, we're almost at the end of the podcast.
Cool.
And that being said, that means that I would say more or less like because we basically covered everything. What
Okay.
ignited the the hustle, and
Yeah.
then what kept you in the hustle.
Yeah.
And we also talk about anything that you want to advise yourself in the past.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll end it in the fact that I would say anything you want to promote at all. Anything for like the last 30 seconds or so.
Yeah.
Anything you want to promote yourself. Somebody has
Yeah.
nothing to sponsor. Anything that you want to promote at all.
Yeah, no, for sure. So unbound-it.com is my website. You can also find me on Facebook. You can also find me on LinkedIn. Add me on LinkedIn as well. First name, again, is Michael. Last name is Garcia. So you should be able to find me fairly easily on LinkedIn. Make sure to add me on there. If you have any questions about IT or consulting, also feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to support people that need the support.
All right. So I'll say this much. Michael Garcia, right?
Yes, sir. That's me.
So how many Michaels and how many Garcias?
There's thousands.
They're
There's
just saying
thousands of
you
us.
said just write Michael Garcia, you're gonna find me.
Right,
My first
Michael
thought was
Garcia.
like 10 billion results are just gonna come in, and then all of them look around the same. So it's like, man, that's cousin number 1, cousin number 2.
No, okay, fair enough. Type in Michael Garcia unbound-IT.
Yeah,
On like LinkedIn or even Google, I should come out if you type that. So.
Okay, that's fair to say. That's fair to say. I immediately thought to my head like Michael Garcia.
Good call out.
Yeah,
There's
you're
a
my
lot of us.
14th Garcia that I've met this year.
Oh God, there's a lot of us,
and none of you are related. That's the part that is wild to me. You know, like none of you are not even closely related.
Nope.
Dramatically different looking and different demographics. Oh no, I'm from Canada. Garcia? Like, okay.
Wait a minute, what's going on?
Exactly.
Here?
Like I'm not gonna give any shade to the guy, but I'm just looking at him like Garcia?
Well,
like from Canada? All right. I mean, I'm not gonna
We're
judge.
all over, man.
Yeah,
we're all over the Garcias.
Gotta find out some history since that's what you major. Like some guy out there, the first Garcia just looked at him like, yeah. I'm gonna like the world is gonna know my name. So
yeah, man.
Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much for hopping in with Born to Hustle. Again, I'm Roham Carrion, and I have a wonderful conversation with Michael Garcia. Other than that, stay tuned for the next episode. Hoorah.